Hey, stories of the Soul fam. We've got a swoon-worthy love story for you today. Let's jump in and tell us, what cities are? The rain drummed against the cracked window of the small apartment like an endless reminder of everything falling apart. Zara Mitchell sat on the threadbare carpet, her back against the cold radiator that hadn't worked in 3 weeks, watching her 18-month-old son Oliver struggle with another coughing fit. His tiny chest rose and fell rapidly, each breath a battle that made her heart clench with helpless fear. The empty bottle of children's cough medicine mocked her from the coffee table. $23 at the pharmacy. $23 she didn't have after paying rent and keeping the lights on for another week. Her phone showed 17 missed calls from the daycare center, probably wondering why she hadn't brought Oliver in for 2 days straight. How could she explain that she couldn't afford to lose another day's pay from her part-time job at the diner, but also couldn't leave her sick baby with strangers? Oliver's fever had spiked again during the night, and now his little face was flushed red while his body shivered uncontrollably. Zara had given him the last dose of infant fever reducer 12 hours ago. The pediatric clinic wanted $60 up front before they would even look at him. Money she had spent on groceries that now seemed pointless because Oliver couldn't keep anything down. She pulled him closer to her chest, feeling his tiny heart racing like a frightened bird. At 24, she had imagined her life would be different by now. College graduate, stable relationship, maybe even married with a house and a savings account. Instead, she was a single mother whose boyfriend had disappeared the moment she told him about the pregnancy, leaving her to navigate parenthood alone while juggling minimum wage jobs and student loans. Her sister Emma lived 2 hours away in the suburbs with her accountant husband and their perfect little family. Emma had always been the successful one, the one who made smart choices and planned everything carefully. She had helped before, sending money when Oliver was born and again when Zara lost her previous job. But asking felt like admitting failure, like confirming that she really was as irresponsible as everyone had whispered when she got pregnant at 22. Oliver whimpered softly, his little hand clutching her shirt as another wave of coughing shook his small body. The sound cut through her heart like glass. This wasn't about pride anymore. This was about her child's health, possibly his life. She had read enough horror stories online about respiratory infections in babies to know that waiting could be dangerous. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her phone and scrolled to Emma's contact. The cursor blinked in the message box as she tried to find words that wouldn't sound pathetic. How do you ask for help when you've already asked so many times before? How do you explain that despite working 2 jobs, despite cutting every corner possible, despite selling everything valuable you owned, you still can't afford basic medical care for your child? She typed slowly, each word feeling like another piece of her dignity cracking away. Emma, I hate to ask again, but Oliver is really sick and I need money for medicine and maybe a doctor visit. I know you helped last month, but I'm scared and don't know what else to do. Can you please send $60? I'll pay you back as soon as I can. Her thumb hovered over the send button. The apartment felt impossibly quiet, except for Oliver's labored breathing and the persistent rain outside. Somewhere in the building, a television played laugh tracks from an old sitcom, the sound of other people's happiness filtering through thin walls. She wondered if normal families ever had to choose between medicine and food, between doctor visits and electricity. Oliver's temperature felt even higher against her skin. His usually bright blue eyes were glazed with fever and exhaustion. She thought about her mother, who had died when Zara was 15, and wondered what advice she would give. Her mother had raised 2 daughters alone after their father left, working double shifts as a nurse to keep them afloat. She had always found a way to make things work, to keep her children safe and healthy despite impossible circumstances. Taking a deep breath, Zara pressed send and immediately felt the familiar mixture of relief and shame that came with asking for help. The message showed as delivered, and now all she could do was wait and pray that Emma would respond quickly. She set the phone aside and focused on Oliver, singing softly to him while she waited for the fever to break or for help to arrive. 20 minutes passed with no response. Emma was probably at work in her comfortable office dealing with tax returns and quarterly reports for people who had enough money to worry about saving it rather than spending it on basic necessities. Zara tried not to feel bitter about the distance between their lives, but sometimes the contrast felt overwhelming. Oliver's breathing seemed to be getting more shallow, and panic began to rise in her chest like cold water. She grabbed her phone again and called Emma's number, but it went straight to voicemail. The professional greeting felt like another reminder of how different their worlds had become. She hung up without leaving a message and stared at her phone screen, feeling more alone than she had ever felt in her life. The notification sound made her heart jump with hope, but when she looked at the screen, her stomach dropped. The message had failed to deliver. She tried sending it again, watching as it failed a second time. Her phone service was supposed to work for another 3 days, but maybe the storm was interfering with the signal, or maybe the company had cut her off early because her payment was late. Desperation made her scroll through her contacts, looking for anyone else who might be able to help. Her co-workers at the diner were struggling just as much as she was. Her college friends had all moved on to careers and relationships that did not include rescuing single mothers from financial disasters. Oliver's father had blocked her number months ago, and his family had made it clear they wanted nothing to do with their grandchild. She tried calling Emma's number again, but the call wouldn't connect. The failure message appeared again, taunting her with its clinical indifference. Oliver stirred in her arms, making a small sound of distress that nearly broke her heart. Time was running out, and she was running out of options. In desperation, she opened her text messages and looked for Emma's contact again. Maybe if she sent a shorter message, it would go through. She typed quickly, "Oliver sick, need help, please call me." But as she pressed send, she realized with horror that she had selected the wrong contact. The message had gone to someone named Gabriel Stone, a number that must have been added to her phone by mistake or left over from some previous mix-up. The message showed as delivered to this stranger, and Zara stared at her phone in mortification. Somewhere out there, a complete unknown person had just received her desperate plea for help. She had never felt more vulnerable or more foolish in her entire life. 47 floors above the city streets, Gabriel Stone stood in his penthouse office, watching the storm rage against the floor-to-ceiling windows. The lights of the city blurred through the rain-streaked glass, creating abstract patterns that reminded him of the watercolor paintings his wife Rose used to create during their quiet Sunday mornings together. Those memories still hit him unexpectedly, even 3 years after losing her to cancer. His phone buzzed against the mahogany desk, interrupting his thoughts. The message from an unknown number appeared on his screen. "Oliver sick, need help, please call me." Gabriel stared at the words, his tech entrepreneur mind immediately analyzing the situation. Wrong number, obviously. Someone named Oliver was sick, and whoever sent this was desperate enough to reach out for help. The logical response would be to send a quick wrong number reply and delete the conversation. His assistant Diane had warned him countless times about responding to random messages, especially given his public profile and the constant attempts by people seeking money or attention. But something about the brevity of the message struck him differently. No elaborate sob story, no manipulation tactics, just a simple plea that felt genuine in its desperation. Gabriel walked back to his desk, still holding his phone. The message bothered him in ways he couldn't explain. The name Oliver reminded him of the children's ward where Rose had volunteered during her final year, reading stories to kids whose parents couldn't always be there due to work or other responsibilities. She had talked about a little boy named Oliver who always asked for extra bedtime stories because his mother worked night shifts to pay for his treatments. His office door opened, and Diane Foster entered with her usual efficient grace. At 55, she had been with Gabriel's company since the early startup days, watching him build his technology empire from a cramped garage office to the massive corporation it had become. She was more than an assistant. She was the closest thing to family he had left since Rose's death. "The quarterly reports are ready for your review," she said, setting a stack of documents on his desk. "Also, the charity foundation called about the hospital donation ceremony next week. They need confirmation of your attendance." Gabriel nodded absently, still thinking about the message. "Diane, if a complete stranger asked you for help, would you respond?" She raised an eyebrow, recognizing his thoughtful mood. After Rose's death, Gabriel had thrown himself into work with single-minded intensity, shutting out personal connections and focusing solely on business growth. But lately, she had noticed small changes in his behavior. as if he was slowly remembering there was a world beyond profit margins and board meetings. "Depends on the situation," she replied carefully. "Why do you ask?" He showed her the message. "Someone texted me by mistake. Their child is sick and they need help." Diane studied the message, then looked at Gabriel with the perceptive gaze of someone who had watched him grieve and slowly begin to heal. "What does your heart tell you to do?" The question caught him off guard. Rose used to ask him the same thing when he became too analytical about personal decisions. His heart told him that somewhere in the city, a parent was watching their child suffer and feeling the kind of helplessness that made you reach out to strangers in desperation. "I keep thinking about Oliver from the children's ward," Gabriel admitted. Rose always said that boy's mother was the bravest person she knew, working 3 jobs to afford his cancer treatments while still finding time to tuck him in every night. She also said that kindness creates ripples, Diane reminded him gently. That helping one person often leads them to help others. Gabriel typed a response. "I think you have the wrong number, but is Oliver okay? What kind of help do you need?" He sent it before he could overthink the decision. Within seconds, his phone rang. The caller ID showed the same number from the text message. He hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Hello?" A young woman's voice came through, shaky with emotion and exhaustion. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was trying to text my sister and somehow sent it to you instead. I can't believe I bothered a stranger with this." "It's okay," Gabriel said, settling into his chair. Something about her voice reminded him of Rose when she was scared, that particular blend of strength and vulnerability that came with facing impossible situations. "Tell me about Oliver. Is he your son?" There was a pause, and he could hear a child coughing in the background. "Yes. He's 18 months old and he's been sick for 3 days. His fever won't break and he can't keep anything down. I need to take him to the doctor, but I can't afford it right now. And I was trying to ask my sister for help, but then I accidentally texted you instead." Gabriel felt something shift in his chest, a warmth he hadn't experienced since Rose's funeral. "What's your name?" Zara Mitchell. "And I really am sorry about bothering you. I'll delete your number and you'll never hear from me again." "Wait," Gabriel said quickly. "Don't hang up. Where do you live? Why?" Her voice became cautious, and he realized how his question must have sounded. "I want to help," he said simply. "There's a pediatric clinic about 10 minutes from downtown. If you can meet me there, I'll cover Oliver's medical expenses." The silence on the other end lasted so long that Gabriel wondered if the call had dropped. Finally, Zara's voice came through, barely above a whisper. "I don't understand. Why would you help us? You don't even know us." Gabriel looked at Rose's photograph on his desk, her smile bright and encouraging as always. "Someone once told me that the world needs more unexpected kindness. I think she would approve of this." Another pause, then, "Are you sure? I mean, really sure? Because if this is some kind of joke, I can't handle that right now." The raw honesty in her voice nearly broke his heart. "I'm sure, Zara. My name is Gabriel Stone. I own Stone Technology Solutions, and I promise you this isn't a joke. I want to help you and Oliver." He heard her sharp intake of breath. "The Gabriel Stone? The billionaire Gabriel Stone?" "Just Gabriel," he said gently. "Can you meet me at Riverside Pediatric Clinic in 30 minutes? "I don't have a car," she admitted, her voice thick with tears. "And I can't afford an Uber with Oliver's car seat." "I'll send a car for you," Gabriel said, already texting his driver. "A black sedan will be at your address in 15 minutes. The driver's name is James, and he has an infant car seat." "How do you know my address?" Now she sounded frightened. Gabriel realized his mistake. "I don't. Can you tell me where you are?" She gave him her address, and Gabriel forwarded it to James along with instructions to drive carefully and wait as long as necessary. "Zara, I know this is overwhelming, but I promise you're safe. I just want to make sure Oliver gets the care he needs." "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Thank you doesn't seem like enough." "Thank you is perfect," Gabriel replied. "I'll meet you at the clinic." After ending the call, Gabriel sat in his office feeling more alive than he had in months. Diane had been watching the entire conversation with knowing eyes. "Rose would be proud," she said softly. Gabriel nodded, already reaching for his jacket. I hope so. I really hope so. As he left his office to meet a stranger and her sick child, Gabriel felt Rose's presence more strongly than he had since her funeral. Maybe this was what healing looked like. Not forgetting the love you had lost, but finding new ways to honor it by spreading that same love to others who needed it most. The rain was still falling as his car pulled up to the clinic. But for the first time in years, Gabriel saw it as something beautiful rather than dreary. He was about to meet the woman whose accidental message had reminded him that sometimes the most important connections begin with the smallest acts of unexpected kindness. Standing in the clinic parking lot, waiting for Zara and Oliver to arrive, Gabriel realized that Rose's final gift to him wasn't just her memory, but her ability to see opportunities for love and compassion in the most ordinary moments. Tonight, he would make sure her legacy of kindness continued through helping a young mother and her sick child, strangers who had accidentally become the key to his own healing.